I was in a car accident, and while I was in the ER, I found out my wife was cheating. Then she showed up crying, acting like the victim, and my family took her side. I'm 36M. My wife, Kara, is 35F. Married almost 7 years, together 10. No kids, 1 dog. We live in the outskirts of Sacramento. Tuesday night, I got into a car accident that wasn't dramatic from the outside, but it hit all the right angles to mess me up. I was driving home from a late site visit for work, going through an intersection I take every day. A sedan ran the red and hit my front passenger side hard enough to spin my car and pop the side airbags. I didn't lose consciousness, but I was dazed. I remember the sound of plastic and glass, and then everything felt far away for a minute. When I tried to stand, my knee buckled, and I realized I was bleeding on my forehead somewhere near my hairline. The other driver kept saying they didn't see the light. I didn't argue. I just sat on the curb and tried to keep my breathing steady. Paramedics checked me. My blood pressure was high, my pulse was high, and I kept repeating the same questions. They said I needed to go to the ER because of possible concussion symptoms and because my neck was stiff. They put me in a collar. They asked if I had someone to call. I said my wife. My phone was at 5%. I texted Kara, I'm okay, but I got hit and I'm going to the ER. Please call me. Then it died. At the hospital, they took my phone and put on a charger at the nurse's station. I got a wristband, I got a triage nurse asking me questions I was struggling to answer, and I got parked in a hallway for a while because it was busy. Eventually, I got moved into a small room. They did a CT. They did x-rays. They gave me something for nausea because the room kept tilting when I turned my head. A nurse asked who my emergency contact was. I repeated my wife's name and number, and she said they'd call her. I expected my phone to start buzzing with missed calls from Kara the second I got it back. Instead, it was quiet. The nurse came back and said they tried calling Kara twice, and it went to voicemail. She asked if there was anyone else. I said my younger brother, and then I hesitated because he works nights. I gave her my sister's number because she's the one who always answers. My sister, Rena, got there about 40 minutes later. She looked like she ran out of the house without thinking. Sweatpants, hair up, no makeup, eyes wide. She hugged me carefully and then started asking questions fast. I told her what the doctor said. Mild concussion, no fracture, bruised ribs, and they were going to keep me a few more hours. Rena asked where Kara was. I said she wasn't answering, and I didn't know why. Rena didn't say anything for a few seconds, then asked me if Kara had her phone on her. I said yes. Rena asked if Kara was supposed to be out with friends or doing something where she might not hear it. I said no. It was a normal Tuesday. Rena made a face like she was trying to decide whether to talk. Then she asked if I'd been checking my notifications. I said my phone died on the way in, and I hadn't had it long. Rena looked down at my phone on the tray and told me to unlock it for her. I asked why. She said I should just do it. I unlocked it. Rena didn't grab it from me. She just pointed at the lock screen. There were 3 missed calls from my sister, which made sense, and 1 from my mom, which made sense because Rena probably called her. Then there were notifications from an app one didn't even think about. A shared calendar app Kara and I use so we don't double book weekends, and so I know when she has work events. The notification was a calendar reminder for Kara that popped up 15 minutes earlier. It said, Room 214, side entrance. I stared at it and asked Rena what that meant. Rena didn't answer. She asked me if Kara had any reason to reserve a room somewhere. I said maybe for her job, but not at night. Kara plans events for a catering company. Sometimes she checks venues. Sometimes she does tastings, but not at 10 at night. And she always tells me if she's on site late. I opened the app. The entry wasn't on our shared calendar. It was on a private calendar Kara keeps synced to the same account. I only saw it because the reminder popped on a device we share. The entry had a hotel name, a street address, and the note about the side entrance. I felt like something cold had moved into my chest. I asked Rena if she had made that entry as a prank. She said no. I called Kara, straight to voicemail. I called again, straight to voicemail. I tried to tell myself it was her boss texting her to meet at a hotel for a client. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. But my wife not answering the ER and a hotel reminder with side entrance, and it did not match any normal explanation. Rena asked me if she should drive to the hotel. I said no. I didn't want her doing something that could go sideways while I was stuck in a hospital bed. I told her to stay with me, and we'd figure out what to do once I was discharged and my head was clearer. Rena didn't look convinced, but she sat down and started scrolling on her own phone. She wasn't on social media. She was doing the things she does when she's trying to find facts. Rena works in insurance. She's used to documentation. About 20 minutes later, she leaned toward me and asked if Kara's laptop had been at home when I left for work. I said yes. Kara works from home a lot. Her laptop is usually on the kitchen counter. Rena asked if Kara and I shared a tablet or any other device that gets her messages. I said we have an old iPad in a drawer that we use for streaming, and it's logged into Kara's Apple ID because she set it up years ago. Rena said okay and got quiet. Another half hour passed. My headache got worse. The ER lights were harsh. I kept closing my eyes and waking up when a nurse came in to check my vitals. I tried calling Kara again once. Voicemail again. Then a nurse stepped in and said Kara was calling back. The nurse asked if I wanted to talk to her, and I said yes. The nurse held the phone out to my ear. I expected Kara to sound panicked. Instead, Kara's voice came through tight and controlled. She asked what hospital I was at. She asked what happened. She said she was sorry. She said she was coming. There was a pause where I waited for her to ask if I was okay. She didn't. She asked if Rena was there. I said yes. Kara said okay. She said she'd be there as soon as she could. Then she hung up. Rena watched my face and asked what Kara said. I told her, and I watched Rena's expression change into something like anger mixed with certainty. Rena said Kara didn't ask how bad it was. She asked who was there. I didn't want to agree, but I couldn't deny it. Around midnight, the ER doctor came in and said they were going to discharge me, but they wanted me to follow up with my primary and no driving for at least 24 hours. He gave me instructions. He said someone should monitor me overnight in case symptoms got worse. Rena said I could stay at her apartment. It wasn't far. She said she'd keep an eye on me. I said okay because the idea of going home to an empty house felt worse than sleeping on her couch. While we were waiting on discharge paperwork, Kara showed up. She came in crying. Not quiet, embarrassed crying. The kind of crying that pulls attention. She rushed to the bed, tried to grab my hand, and started saying she was so sorry and she was so scared and she thought I was hurt badly. I didn't pull away fast enough, and she squeezed my hand like she was trying to anchor herself. Rena stood up immediately. She didn't touch Kara. She just positioned herself between Kara and the bed. Kara looked at Rena and asked why she was there like Rena had broken into the room. I said the hospital couldn't reach you, so they called my sister. Kara's crying paused. She blinked hard, then started again. She said she hadn't heard the calls. She said her phone was on silent. She said she was in the shower. I asked what shower takes 2 hours. Kara said she had gone for a drive to clear her head. She said she was overwhelmed. She said she didn't know what to do when she saw my text. I asked why she didn't call back until the hospital called her. Kara said she did call back. She said the call didn't go through. Rena asked Kara why there was a hotel reminder on her calendar that said side entrance. Kara's face changed. Her eyes went wide for half a second. Then she looked at me like she wanted me to shut Rena down. Kara asked why Rena was looking at her calendar. Rena said she saw the reminder pop up on my phone. Kara said that was private and it wasn't anyone's business. I said it became my business when you didn't answer the ER and your private reminder says room 214. Kara started crying harder, and then she said something that made my stomach twist. She said this was not the time to attack her. She said she was having a hard week, and now I was turning my accident into a reason to interrogate her. I didn't raise my voice. I asked her who was in room 214. Kara said it was a mistake. She said she put it in there to remind herself to check something for a client. She said the room number was an old note, and she didn't even notice it. I asked what client requires a side entrance at midnight. Kara said the venue had strict rules. Rena asked the hotel name. Kara snapped at Rena that she needed to mind her own marriage. Rena said okay, then asked Kara why she ignored 3 calls from the ER. Kara said she didn't ignore them. She said she didn't hear them. Then she said her phone was acting up. Then she said she had been in the car and her ringer didn't work. The story kept shifting. I told Kara I wasn't doing this in the ER. I told her to stop crying and tell me the truth or leave. Kara's crying went quiet and sharp, like she was trying to hold it back. She said I was embarrassing her. She said I was making her look bad in front of strangers. She said she came here to support me, and I was making it ugly. Rena told Kara to stop making it about herself. Kara turned to Rena and said this was why she never liked Rena, because Rena always thought the worst of people and always tried to turn me against my own family. That was the first time Kara put my family into it, and I realized she was already building a story. I asked Kara again who was in room 214. Kara said she was not answering that. Then she leaned in close and asked if I was on pain meds. She asked if I was confused. She asked if I remembered what happened clearly. I said yes, and I said I remembered enough to know you didn't answer the hospital. Kara looked at me like I had just insulted her. Then she started crying again, louder. She said she couldn't believe I would accuse her of cheating when I was hurt. She said she'd been worried sick. A nurse poked her head in and asked if everything was okay. Kara immediately switched. She smiled through tears and said yes. She said she was just scared and she was grateful I was okay. When the nurse left, Kara leaned down and told me we would talk about this at home. She said I needed rest. She said Rena shouldn't be making decisions for me. I told Kara I wasn't going home with her. Kara's face went blank. She asked where I was going. I said I was staying with Rena, and we'd talk later. Kara asked me if I understood how that would look. I said I didn't care how it looked. I cared that my wife didn't answer the ER and showed up with a story that doesn't make sense. Kara told me not to do this. She said I was making a mistake. She said she was my wife and she had rights. Rena said the doctor told me not to be alone and she would monitor me overnight, and that was enough. Kara stood there staring at me like she wanted me to change my mind. Then she turned and walked out quickly, still crying, wiping her face like she was trying to look devastated for anyone watching. Rena drove me to her place and set me up on her couch with water and a trash can nearby in case I threw up. She told me to sleep. I didn't. Around 2 a.m. my phone started buzzing. Kata, my mom, my brother, my aunt, people I didn't talk to often unless something big happened. I didn't answer any of it. In the morning, I had a text from Kara that said, I was terrified. I love you. Please come home so we can talk like adults. I had a text from my mom that said, call me now. Your wife is beside herself. I had a text from my brother that said, stop being dramatic. She showed up. You're fine. My head was still pounding and my ribs hurt when I breathed too deep. And even through the concussion fog, it felt like Kara had made calls while I was sleeping and decided what story would land with my family. Rena asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes, and asked if she had seen anything else on the calendar app. Rena said she didn't want to push, but she had looked up the hotel address, and it was a place people use for quick stays. She said it wasn't a fancy venue. It was not the kind of place Kara uses for work. She said it was right off a major road with a back parking lot. Then Rena asked if I wanted her to grab the iPad from my house. She said if it was still logged in, there might be messages. I said no at first because it felt invasive and because part of me still wanted there to be a normal explanation. Then my mom called again, back to back, and I watched the screen light up with my mother's name like an alarm. I told Rena to go get it. Rena went to my house while I stayed on her couch, trying to breathe without making my ribs spasm. When Rena came back, she set the iPad down on the coffee table and told me Kara's car was home and my mom's car was there too. I asked why my mom was there. Rena said she didn't know. She didn't go in. She just grabbed the iPad from the drawer in the kitchen and left. I opened the iPad. It was still logged into Kara's account. I didn't go hunting through years of messages. I didn't need to. There were notifications right on the screen from an app one don't use. A messaging app Kara installed because she said it was better for group chats with coworkers. The top notification preview was from a contact saved as Jay. It said, don't panic. Just say you didn't hear the calls. Under it was another. Did he see anything? My hand started shaking. I opened the app. The messages were clear, not coded, not subtle. There were pictures that made it obvious this wasn't emotional cheating. There were messages about meeting up, about the hotel, about what time I usually get home, about how to avoid our neighbor seeing her car. Then there were messages from that night. Kara said she'd heard the hospital calling and she couldn't pick up because she was in the room and it would be loud. She said she'd call back after. She said she needed to go to the hospital to control it because Rena was there and Rena would poison him. And the guy, Jay, told her to cry. He told her to act like the wife who rushed there. He told her to say she was in the shower. He told her to say I was confused. I sat there staring at it until my eyes burned. Rena asked if I want to take screenshots. I said yes. We took screenshots of the conversation and sent them to myself. We backed them up to a folder on Rena's computer. Rena told me to keep a copy somewhere Kara couldn't access. Then I called my mom back because I needed to hear what she thought she knew. My mom answered on the first ring. She didn't ask how I was. She said Kara was devastated. She said Kara had been up all night. She said Kara was worried I was having a breakdown from the accident and was not thinking straight. I asked my mom why she was at my house. My mom said she went over to support Kara because Kara didn't feel safe alone. I asked what that meant. My mom said Kara told her I accused her of cheating in the ER, and then I left with Rena and refused to come home. My mom said Kara was scared I would come back angry, and the accident had me rattled. I told my mom I had proof Kara was cheating. My mom said proof like what? I told her I saw messages. I told her the affair partner literally coached Kara on what to say in the ER. My mom got quiet, then said I shouldn't be reading my wife's messages. I asked if my mom heard what I said. My mom said I heard you, but you're hurt and you're emotional, and Kara has always been good to you. I told my mom Kara ignore the hospital calls to meet someone at a hotel. My mom said Kara told her she didn't get the calls. I told my mom the messages say she did. My mom said messages can be edited. That was the first time I realized my mother had already decided which reality she wanted. I told my mom I wasn't going to argue on the phone. I told her I would be filing for divorce, and I didn't want Kara contacting me except in writing. My mom said divorce was extreme. My mom said accidents make people do irrational things. My mom said Kara is your wife. She deserves respect. I asked my mom what about me deserved respect. My mom said I was talking like Rena. I ended the call. Later that day, my brother showed up at Rena's apartment. He didn't knock quietly. He knocked like he was angry. Rena opened the door, stepped outside, and told him he wasn't coming in unless he was calm. My brother asked if I was inside. Rena said yes. My brother told Rena she was meddling. Rena told him to leave or she'd call the police. My brother lowered his voice and said he just wanted to talk to me. I walked to the door and stood behind Rena. I told my brother I wasn't discussing anything until my head was better, and I told him Kara cheated and I had proof. My brother said Kara told them I was accusing her out of nowhere. I told them about the hotel. I told them about the messages. My brother said okay, then asked if I'd been distant lately. He asked if I'd been working too much. He asked if I'd been giving Kara attention. I asked him why he was interviewing me like the cheating was my fault. My brother said marriage is complicated and people make mistakes. I asked if he would say that if I had been the one in a hotel room. My brother said it's different. I asked how. My brother didn't answer. He just said I should go home and talk to my wife like a man and stop hiding at my sister's. Rena had told him to leave. He left, and as he walked down the stairs, he said Rena always ruins things. The next day, I tried to go back to work. I work for a city department that does inspections and compliance. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. I'm on the road a lot. It's mostly paperwork and field visits, and it requires a clear head because you're making calls that affect businesses and permits. My supervisor asked me to come in and talk before I went out for the day. He shut the door and asked how I was feeling. I said I was sore, but I could do desk work and catch up on reports. He asked if the accident was serious. I said the ER said mild concussion and bruised ribs, no fractures. He nodded, then said HR wanted documentation, which was normal. Then he said something else that didn't fit. He said someone called the front desk yesterday, claiming I was disoriented, that I shouldn't be driving, and that I might be a danger if I got behind the wheel. I asked who. He said they didn't give a name, but they claimed to be family, and they said they were scared. I asked if they mentioned my wife. He didn't answer directly. He said HR wanted me on administrative leave until a doctor cleared me for duty. I understood the concussion risk part. That was reasonable. What wasn't reasonable was the call and the timing and the way it matched Kara's new story that I wasn't thinking straight. I drove back to Rena's apartment, sat down, and felt something settle. It wasn't sadness. It was a decision. I called a divorce attorney that afternoon. The attorney told me not to move back into the house without a plan. The attorney told me to assume Kara would lock me out or change accounts. The attorney told me to gather documents. The attorney told me to stop debating with family members because family members are not neutral in divorce. The attorney also told me something I didn't want to hear. If Kara was already calling my job and my family, I should be prepared for her to escalate into claims that made her look like a victim. That night, I emailed Kara. I kept it short. I said I knew about the affair, I had evidence, and I wanted all communication in writing. Kara replied within minutes. She didn't deny the affair. She didn't apologize for ignoring the hospital. She wrote that she was under a lot of pressure and I was hard to live with, and that she didn't feel emotionally safe lately. Then she wrote that it was cruel to threaten divorce when I had just been in an accident. I replied once. I said I wasn't threatening, I was filing. The next day, my mom asked me to meet at a diner to talk as a family. I went because I still had this hope that if my mom saw the messages, she would snap out of whatever story Kara fed her. My mom was there with my aunt and my brother. Kara was there too. I didn't know she would be there. If I had, I wouldn't have come alone. Kara looked exhausted on purpose. Puffy eyes, big sweater, tissue pack on the table. She acted like she could barely look at me. My mom started by saying she wanted peace. She said she wanted us to work it out. She said Kara was willing to forgive me for leaving her alone in a crisis. I asked what crisis Kara had. My mom said I traumatized her by accusing her in the ER. I told my mom I had the messages. My aunt said reading messages is abusive. My brother said it's a violation. Kara started crying and said she felt trapped in her own home because I might come back angry. I asked Kara if she felt trapped in the hotel. My mom snapped my name and told me to stop. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots. My mom looked at the screen for less than 10 seconds and pushed the phone away like it was dirty. She said she didn't want to see private things. My aunt said people say things in messages they don't mean. My brother said the accident probably made me paranoid. Then Kara said the thing that made me realize there was no point continuing. She said she didn't even know who that was. She said someone must have stolen her account. She said she was being framed. I asked if she was serious. Kara looked at my mom and said she was terrified of what I was capable of if I kept spiraling. My mom told me I needed help. I asked my mom if she understood that Kara was lying to her face. My mom said she understood that her son was acting cold and aggressive. My brother told me to calm down. I stood up and walked out. I didn't slam anything. I didn't yell. I just left. I got in my car and sat there until my hands stopped shaking enough to drive. When I got back to Rena's, I had a text from Kara saying I embarrassed her in public. I didn't respond. 2 days later, I went to my house with Rena to get clothes and important paperwork. Kara had changed the locks. She didn't tell me. She didn't warn me. I put my key in and it didn't work. Rena told me not to force it. She told me to call the police for a civil standby. I felt sick doing it, but I did. An officer came out. Kara came to the door and started crying as soon as she saw the police car, like she was practicing. She told the officer she was afraid of me. She said I was not myself after the accident. She said I was stalking her. The officer asked if there was a restraining order. There wasn't. I told the officer I lived there and I needed my belongings. Kara said she'd let me in if my sister waited outside. Rena refused, which I appreciated more than I can explain. The officer told Kara she could either let me in to get essentials, or the officer would note that she was denying me access to my own home. Kara site put aside. She kept the dog behind her legs like she was shielding him from me. I walked through my own house and felt like it wasn't mine. Kara had moved pictures. She had cleared the counter of my stuff. She had stacked my mail in a pile like it was trash. I grabbed a bag of clothes. I grabbed my passport. I grabbed my birth certificate. I grabbed tax documents. I grabbed my work laptop. When I tried to take the dog, Kara blocked the doorway and started shaking. She said I was taking the only thing keeping her calm. She said the dog was her support. My mom appeared from the hallway. I didn't know she was there. My mom stood behind Kara and told me not to take the dog. She said Kara couldn't handle it. I told my mom that was my dog too. My mom said I was being cruel. She said Kara had done nothing wrong except make a mistake, and now I was punishing her. I looked at my mom and asked her if she knew Kara changed the locks. My mom said Kara had to because she was scared. I asked scared of what? My mom said to me. The officer watched all of it. He didn't react much, but he asked Kara if she intended to keep denying me access. Kara said she was not denying access. She said she was protecting herself. The officer told us to handle it in family court and left. I walked out without the dog because I could feel my ribs tightening and my head starting to throb, and I didn't want to do something physical in front of Kara and my mother. I didn't want Kara to get the scene she wanted. That night, I cried for the first time since the accident, and it wasn't about the cheating. It was about my mother standing there backing Kara while Kara lied. The next week, things sped up. Kara emailed my supervisor directly. She told him she was worried I might be driving while concussed, and that she felt obligated to report it for public safety. My supervisor forwarded it to HR. HR asked if I had a doctor's note. I did. I sent it. The doctor cleared me for non-driving duties only. HR told me to stay on leave until they could arrange temporary desk work. I could live with that. What I couldn't live with was Kara turning my accident into a way to build a record that I was unstable. Then the welfare check started. The first time, police came to Rena's apartment at 9 p.m. and asked to see me. They said someone called saying I was being kept from my wife and I might be suicidal after an accident. I stood in the doorway in sweatpants, showed them my ID, showed them the discharge paperwork, and told them I was fine. They left. 2 days later, another welfare check. Same story. Concerned family. Head injury. Not in my right mind. Rena asked the officer who called. The officer said they couldn't tell us. But Rena said something simple that clicked into place. She said, nobody calls in welfare checks unless they want something documented. My attorney filed for temporary orders. Access to the house. Possession of the dog until things were sorted. An order that Kara couldn't change locks without providing me keys. Kara responded by claiming I was harassing her. My family responded by telling me I was taking it too far. My mom texted me that I was destroying my marriage over screenshots. My brother texted that I needed to stop listening to Rena. My aunt said I should apologize to Kara for invading her privacy. Nobody asked Kara why she was in a hotel room while the hospital called her. I kept going anyway. The temporary hearing was short. The judge didn't care about feelings. The judge cared about facts. The judge ordered Kara to provide me access and keys. The judge ordered a schedule for the dog, pending a full agreement. The judge ordered communication through a co-parenting style app, even though we didn't have kids because it logs messages. Kara cried outside the courtroom and told my mom that I humiliated her. My mom hugged her. Rena stood next to me and said nothing. When I finally got in my own house again with keys, I found a folder on the kitchen counter. Inside were printed screenshots of my messages to Kara with sections highlighted like she was building a case. The highlighted parts were anything where I sounded firm. Not rude, not threatening, just firm. Kara had also taken my name off the utility autopay and let the water bill go overdue, then sent me a message asking if I was trying to punish her by cutting off utilities. I sent proof it was her account and her action. She didn't respond. A month after the accident, my job told me I could return to desk duties. On my first day back, HR called me in. They said they had received multiple calls and emails from concerned relatives about my mental state. They asked if I was being treated for anxiety. They asked if I had any substance issues. I told them no, and I asked who was contacting them. They said they couldn't share names, but they asked me to please keep my personal situation from affecting the workplace. I left HR and sat in my car in the parking lot and realized Kara and my family were willing to mess with my income to force me back into the role they wanted. Quiet husband, go home, forgive, stop making Kara look bad. That day, I texted my mom and told her to stop contacting my job. My mom replied, we're trying to help you. I asked what help looks like. My mom said help looks like coming home and working it out and getting therapy and not throwing away a marriage. I asked if she knew Kara's affair partner told her to cry in the ER and claim I was confused. My mom said I needed to stop repeating that like it mattered. That was when I stopped calling my mother mom in my head. I kept the label out of habit, but the role was gone. 2 months after the accident, I got the dog back on a schedule. Kara made every handoff into a show. She would show up with my mom or my aunt. She would cry. She would tell the person supervising that she missed him and she didn't understand why I was doing this. Once at a handoff in a grocery store parking lot, Kara told a stranger walking by that I was taking her dog to hurt her. The stranger looked at me like I was a villain. I put the dog in my car and left. Then Kara's affair partner contacted me, not to apologize, not to back off. He messaged me from a fake-looking social media account and said I was ruining Kara's life and that I should let her move on. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney. My attorney said we were building a strong pattern for harassment if it continued. 3 months after the accident, my attorney got a copy of a police report I didn't know existed. Kara had gone to the station and said she was afraid I would hurt her. She didn't accuse me of a specific incident. She just said she was concerned because I had hit my head and was unpredictable. It was vague on purpose. It was enough to plant an official note that she was scared. I wanted to throw up. My attorney told me not to react. He told me to stay consistent. He told me to keep everything in writing. So I did. Then my family tried one last thing. My brother invited me to his house for dinner, said it would just be him and me, no pressure. I agreed because part of me still wanted at least one person in my family to treat me like a human and not a storyline. I showed up and Kara was there. My mom was there. My aunt was there. They were all sitting in the living room like it was an intervention. Kara started crying immediately and said she missed me. My mom said she wanted her family back. My brother said we all needed to talk. I said no. I turned around and walked out. My mom followed me to the driveway and grabbed my arm. She told me I was selfish. She told me Kara was suffering. She told me I was punishing everyone. I told my mom that if she touched me again, I would call the police. My mom looked shocked, like that sentence wasn't allowed. Kara came outside behind her and said she couldn't believe I'd threatened my own mother. I told Kara I couldn't believe she'd ignore the ER to meet a man in a hotel and then cry to my family like I was the one who did something wrong. Kara said she didn't ignore anything. She said I was rewriting history. I told her I had the messages. Kara said the messages were taken out of context. My mom said I was obsessed. I got in my car and drove away. That night, I blocked my aunt and my brother. I kept my mom unblocked because my attorney advised me not to escalate contact changes right before court, but I muted her. 6 months after the accident, the divorce finalized. The legal part was not dramatic. It was paperwork and meetings and waiting. Kara wanted the house. I didn't. I wanted clean separation. We sold it. The market was decent. We split the equity after fees. Kara wanted the dog. I fought for the dog because Kara used him as leverage and because I had the vet records in my name, the training receipts in my name, and a consistent history of care. The judge didn't care who cried more. The judge cared who had the records and who had stable living arrangements. I got the dog. Kara cried in the hallway afterward and told my mom I was heartless. My mom hugged her. Then my mom walked toward me like she expected me to comfort her too, like she expected me to fix it for everyone. I stepped back and told her not to come closer. My mom asked me if I was really going to throw away my family over this. I told her I wasn't throwing them away. I told her they picked a side and they picked it early and I wasn't going to pretend it didn't happen. My mom said Kara was my wife. I said she was my wife when she ignored the hospital and went to a hotel. My mom said she made a mistake. I said she made a plan. My mom stared at me like she didn't recognize me. I walked out. A week later, Kara emailed me through the court app to ask if I could just talk because she needed closure. I didn't respond. Rena helped me move into a small rental. I got my job situation stable again. HR stopped receiving calls after my attorney sent a letter warning that further interference would be treated as harassment and reported. My brother hasn't spoken to me since. My aunt sends occasional messages that I don't open. My mom sent one email a month after the divorce saying she hoped I would come to my senses. I didn't reply. The concussion symptoms faded after a few weeks. The bruises faded. The ribs healed. What didn't heal was realizing that the night I was in the ER, my wife wasn't just cheating. She was already planning how to look like the victim. And by the time I got off that hospital bed, my family had already decided that her tears mattered more than what I could prove.